Welcome to First Byte, our Detroit Lions preview podcast. It is week 4 already, and we are on a short week because it is Packers week. It is Thursday night football, and if you play in Lambeau and you're the Detroit Lions in the past 3 years, it means you're playing in prime time. You don't have a voice in the matter. But my name is Jeremy Reisman. I am the producer over at Pride Detroit. You can find me at Detroit Online. With me, as always, as my co-host for the First Byte preview podcast is senior editor, I was always going to say the machine. You're not quite the machine.
No.
You're the rock god.
Thank you.
Yeah,
that works.
You're at Ryan_POD. Ryan Matthews is here. Ryan, how we doing, buddy?
Doing well. Just got finished refereeing a Powder Puff game. So it's football all week, baby. And you know what? We have an awesome guest.
We do.
Who we're not going to throw any flags on this guy.
Before we throw to him, and this is not going to be a treat for the podcast listening audience, but can you give me a good referee enthusiastic emote, or can you give me a holding on the defense, which is my favorite referee call because they like to put a little extra emphasis on the defense.
I'm not going to do that here.
All right, fine.
For the viewing audience on Twitch, you'll get a little bonus one in the break.
All right, fair enough. All right, but as Ryan alluded to in these preview podcasts, we like to bring on a guest from the opposing side, and this week is no different. We found ourselves a Packers fan we actually kind of like, and we're just sticking with him for the rest of eternity. He is a writer for Cheesehead TV. He's on the Pack a Day podcast. He's on Packers Sports. He's everywhere. He's at Dusty Evilly on Twitter. It's Dusty Evilly. Thanks for joining us, man.
Hey, listen, I appreciate you guys tolerating me and having me back. Thank you guys. Excited about this.
No, we do legitimately love your company and your insight, and so we're gonna dig into that for the next 45 minutes or so here. And as we always do, let's start with the opponent's offense going against the Lions' defense, and I think we have to start with Jordan Love here. Now that he's 4-5, however many starts he's into his NFL career at this point. And listen, from the outside looking in, I haven't watched a ton of his tape yet. The advanced statistics confuse the hell out of me, Dusty.
Yeah.
Because his completion percentage over expected is literally last in the league.
Mm-hmm.
His PFF grade is bad, bottom 10 in the league. Mm-hmm. Yet the team is second in pass DVOA and third in dropback EPA. Mm-hmm. So what the hell is going on?
Magic. Jeremy, magic.
Packers magic. It's always it.
If I'm not mistaken, 4 starts because he had the KC start 2 years ago.
Right.
And then 3 starts this year. So 4 starts. He's heading into his 5th start. I've been tracking this year his CPOE. It's been negative all 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
All 3 weeks, negative CPOE. The PFF, I kind of take with a grain of salt with a lot of that stuff. What we've seen, one of his stats that I love this past week is ADOT, his average depth of target was 12.6, which was not only highest in the league, it was the highest. It was the highest of any week of any quarterback has had so far this year, which has only 3 weeks. But dude's gunning. His ADOT for the league is the highest, which is 10.6, which I think it was 10.4 led the league last year. So he's gunning. I think it's right to be confused by the advanced stats. I think there's a handful of things going on. I think one of them is I think he's been a victim of some drops. And I think with PFF, Football Outsiders, Pro Football Reference, wherever you look, everyone is so stingy with drops. It's I swear to God, I'll watch a game and there was 6 drops there and you look and there's 1. Okay, I don't know what's going on. But there's been if not drops, balls that have hit receivers' hands that should have been caught. I guess I'll put it that way. So he's been the victim of some drops. This past week especially, I'm throwing zero shade on any refs because the refs set the tone early in that game and kind of let them do it. Saints were living in jerseys all day. DBs living in jerseys. This past week especially, living in receivers' jerseys, knocking balls away, getting hands on guys as the ball was in the air, stuff like that. So that played into it, kind of a little physicality to it. But then also you have, it's so young, I think youngest wide receiver group since the 0-16 Browns, if I'm not mistaken. They've been missing wide receiver 1 all year. Christian Watson's been out. And so there's been inconsistencies with routes run, with guys being where they're supposed to be. And then not to take anything away from Jordan Love, he had an accuracy issues in college and he still will show those occasionally now. Deep ball he's gunning. Deep ball has not been there. I think he has attempted if I remember this correctly, second most passes of 20 plus yards in the league, and he's completed like 3 of them on the year. He's done most of his damage on a deep ball with defensive pass interferences. So thanks guys.
No.
Appreciate you. He had
No.
two big ones in the fourth quarter this past week. But then also some of his not his short game, his quick game's been surprisingly good, but his mid-range like out game, he's off on those like pretty consistently. So it's a whole bunch of stuff going on, but like when he's on, like he can hit. We usually like drive to drive, he's relatively consistent. You'll just have these weird throws, and then sometimes receivers not being where they're supposed to be. So it's the CPOA it's I mean, I think his completion percentage on the year is like 53% or 57 or something. Like it's bad. I do think there's things that I think that will tick up, but it is, if you just look at when you sent those stats, I hadn't looked at it like that before. It paints a very confusing picture. It looks like I was thinking about this when I was watching the game this past week. It's almost like 70s Terry Bradshaw, where he's just like that whole 70s era. Like, I'm just gunning this. Like, I don't care. Like, everything's going 20 plus yards down the field. My completion percentage 47%. So that's the picture it kind of paints. But I think he's been pretty good.
Yeah, and I feel like too, Dusty, like that's maybe one of the last things that I think quarterbacks kind of develop is that mid-range game, like throwing to the boundary outside the hash. Like that's something that like Jared Goff has really like, it's probably why he's in the league, right? Like he can make those throws all the time, Jeremy. So it comes with time. But speaking of the Packers offense, like 9th in DVOA, right? Like 2nd in passing, like we just talked about, but 27th in rushing. Dusty, what's going on with the running game? Is it as simple as AJ Dillon hasn't been very good and the Packers miss Aaron Jones? Is it offensive line issues up front?
Yeah. No,
I wish it was that easy.
Wish it was that easy. I mean, Jones has been out. Jones played the 2.5 quarters of the first game, and then he scored like that 80-yard touchdown and pulled up on his hamstring. He said during the game, or after the game, he called it a hamstring bite, which is not anything I've ever heard before. I've not heard a hamstring talked to as a bite before. He said if the game was still in hand, or if it was close, he would have gone back in. He's missed 2 games now, and so if it's just as easy as that, it's we will plug Aaron Jones, and that's fine. The other side is that first week there was also David Bakhtiari, who has now not played 2 games in a row. And that's the norm now, apparently. There was a conversation that second week around, is Dave Bakhtiari not playing because it's a turf game and he doesn't want to play on turf? And my answer to that was, again, I wish it was that easy, because if it was just, I don't want to play a turf game, okay, you can plan for that. It's worse if his knee's flaring up and it's bad again. Well, his knee's flaring up and it's bad again. He didn't play this past week either. They lost Elton Jenkins in week 2 as well, sprained MCL. They've not put him on IR. So they do expect him back at some point. But I mean, not this Thursday, I can't imagine. And that's the left side of their line. And so if you look at their line, on the best day, if those 2 guys are in, their center's Josh Myers, who is inconsistent at best, can move in the run game, isn't like they will pull him more than they'll pull a guard. Like, he's an athletic dude. He'll get out on the edge, all that pin pull stuff, like he'll pull on that stuff. But he's inconsistent. He'll let guys get past him, pass game, run game, whatever. He's better in pass than he is against the run. At right guard, the most confusing one every time I talk to him is John Runyon, because his dad was like a road grader. He's not. He's a pass protector guy. He's not going to move a whole lot of guys in the run game. And then at right tackle is Zach Tom, another dude, very good pass protection, not great in the run. And that's on their best day. Well, now you take away their left side of the line, their 2 best run guys. You place them with Rasheed Walker, who was 5th or 7th round pick last year, if I'm not mistaken. Has graded out. If you look at PFF, if you look at him on the field, really good pass pro, missed several blocks in the run game this past week. They're pulling him. He can't, he's just missing blocks. And then they've got Royce Newman at left guard. Royce Newman's entire thing is if you run a single stunt across his face, he looks like he's never played football before. And again, another guy that can pass pro, but can't run. And so Dillon has missed his reads at times. Dillon has stumbled over his feet at times. The offense looks a little better when Patrick Taylor's out there. He's their, I would imagine they elevate him this week. He's been their practice squad call-up. He's been with them 3 or 4 years now. So they've looked better with him. But if you watch some of these run plays, it's AJ Dillon in the backfield, and then you see like, okay, there's a guy knifing through because there was a missed block or something. So if Aaron Jones is back this week, that's great. Run game will be better because Aaron Jones is better at seeing those holes. He's better at avoiding that contact, things like that. But they're going to have to beat Detroit through the air. Like, I don't anticipate that run game getting any better until at least one of Elton Jenkins or David Bakhtiari is back. Until they have one functional run blocking lineman, the run game's not going to be anything other than like below average at best.
Yeah, Jeremy, that kind of concerns me though, because if there was one way that the Lions can get beat on defense, it's probably through the air. That's kind of been demonstrated so far this year.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it has to
Seattle
be
game.
it has to be a dynamic passing attack. It has to be a I guess my level of concern is mixed because Geno Smith and that passing offense has been good for quite some time. We're still learning about how good this Packers passing attack is. We did just get done talking about how efficient it can be. And so I guess I want to kind of shift the conversation back to the passing game here because the Packers have been so one-dimensional on offense, how are they still finding success? Is it just like, is it that old adage that play action can be successful whether you're having a running game or not, and that's what's happening? Or is it just chuck the ball up is a good strategy in today's NFL because you're every now and then you're going to get a 50-yard pass interference penalty, which, spoiler alert, that's probably going to be my one thing I think I know about this game.
I mean, the funny thing is, so they are still using a lot of play action. Teams know. I mean, we saw it with the Falcons game specifically, and then this past week against the Saints as well. Teams are keying in on this that like we don't have to care about their run game. If we've got a decent front, we don't have to care about their run game. So they're just dropping linebackers. And so a lot of like there's a couple like very key. Every team in the league will run these play action concepts to attack the middle of the field. They haven't been there, and so the Packers have been looking for answers. So that's what like some of those like intermediate outbreaking stuff have come off of play action because they're looking to hit that middle of the field. It's not there because there's a linebacker in the lane, and so some of the play action stuff has not been as effective. Now they're still running it like crazy. I will say LaFleur has almost been showing off at times this year. Some of his play design, the motion stuff he's been doing, the way he's able, it's a young receiving group, but they've got speed. Yeah. They've got guys who will attack the ball. So he's been weaponizing those guys as much as humanly possible. And that's helped them a ton. And I've not looked at the numbers. Like I know they're using a ton of play action, but I don't know where they are in the league. Motion, I think they're third in the league right now behind like way behind the Dolphins, who I think are at like 90%, right. And they're neck and neck with the Niners at this point. But
everybody is.
Yeah. Oh, I know. But they're doing a bunch of short motion stuff, like the stuff the Dolphins been doing. They've been doing that since week one. A lot of stuff with Musgrave, the rookie tight end. They've been motioning him a bunch to get him open. He's been a big part of their attack, even if his numbers don't show it yet. But yeah, I mean, they will. I think the play action is effective, but it's because they found ways around how defenses are trying to take traditional play action away with some of that stuff.
Yeah. So Dusty, let's talk a little bit about the receiving game. Because a big name that's been on the injury report for the Packers so far this year has been Christian Watson, and hamstrings can just be something that linger all the time. So I guess my question to you is, we got a sense that Christian Watson's going to be playing on Thursday. Like, how much do you think he'll be playing? And just talk generally about like the Packers, receiving threats. I mean, Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, some of these guys who maybe have kind of fallen by the wayside for Lions listeners.
Yeah, no, Watson. I mean, I think because I kind of did this a little bit last year when he came back from a hamstring. Because this year he tweaked it, like he was fine all training camp. He played every preseason game, and it was the practice leading up to week one. He tweaked it, and then we haven't seen him. And so what they did with him last year he didn't do any training camp, and then when they brought him in, they brought him in pitch count. So I would imagine we will see him. And now he had a comment today where he said something like he probably would have been good to go this past week on like 10 to 15 snaps. And he said, but the decision was made. It was something effective. Decision was made like, I don't want to go out there because then I'm taking up a roster spot from someone else who can play more and have a bigger impact and more impact on the game plan overall. So that's one of the reasons they sat. So I would imagine we're not going to see him a ton, but 20, 25 snaps, I'd imagine. And I mean, when he's out there, because when they did this last year, they brought him in and it was a whole bunch of jet sweeps and stuff. And I think they'll be using him for that. But he is a good, well-rounded receiver they've got speed. He's got speed that like no one has. Like that dude's like freak show, like Randy Moss level speed stuff. So I think they'll be running him a lot of deep stuff. But yeah, then the other guys, it's been I was gonna say the de facto one. They don't really have a one, but Dobbs has been the dude. He's that second year guy. Little inconsistent, but like he had the game-winning touchdown catches past week. Has gotten better hands and route running and getting off the line. Like he's shown. I was not super high on him last year. He's shown a lot of improvement this year. Jaden Reed, the rookie out of Michigan State, has been tremendous. Had a couple drops this past week, but I think he ran his combine was something like 4.5, but they said they clocked him at like 4.3 at his pro day. He plays fast. He's small, but he plays a little bigger and he plays fast. And he's kind of been their slot guy. They'll line him up. It's funny because he's not a big guy. He's one of those guys that fit just below the Packers drafting thresholds. They'll put him insert him under the line on some run blocking stuff the way they used to do with Lazard, and like he's nowhere near Alan Lazard, what Alan Lazard was. But dude, he's willing. He's small dude, tough, fast. He made a tremendous catch this past week on a slot fade. So they'll get him loose a bunch of different ways. Dontavian Wicks is probably the other big guy, another rookie. Everyone's a rookie. Out of Virginia, rookie out of Virginia. They've been finding ways to get him open as well. And the way he catches the ball, he's not as fast, doesn't have the immediate speed of Reed, but it seems like every week they're like, oh, okay, we can do this with this guy. And so he's a guy I would look out for in terms, especially if Watson, because if Watson's back, everyone bumps down a little bit. I mean, Wicks has seen the field a lot, and he'll probably still will continue to see the field a lot, but they're finding ways to kind of get him open a little bit more. And he really good hands catcher. And then kind of rounding stuff out would be, I guess, Malik Heath, who if Watson's on the field, we probably won't see a lot of Malik Heath. Malik Heath is more of like a smaller, kind of more of a blocking guy, not a ton of speed. I think he's gotten like 2, maybe 3 targets. I don't even know if he has a catch on the year at this point, but kind of like more of a bruiser guy. But everyone else is speed, rookies, young guys. It's Dobbs and Watson are the vets, and both those guys are 2-year guys, or everyone else is rookies at this point.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think this is the most fascinating matchup because it does seem like Packers run offense versus Lions run defense is pretty heavily favored in the Lions' favor. Mm-hmm. The Lions are coming off a much better pass defense game, but Desmond Ridder is not a guy who likes to push the ball downfield that much. They do have some good receivers over there, but it seems like the Packers have a bunch of different kind of weapons, I would say. And
they say Falcons are like kind of like the big slow bruisers, right?
Right.
The Packers are just like flyers a little bit more.
Right. And the Lions are probably going to have both their starting safeties out again. Obviously, C.J. Gardner-Johnson's on IR, and it looks like Kirby is not trending towards playing in this game. So it's going to be a big test for a guy like Ifeatu Melifonwu, who had a nice, promising debut, and Tracy Walker, who I think is more than capable. But I don't know, Ryan, how are you feeling about that matchup? Because it seems like you're maybe a little bit more nervous than I am about it.
Yeah, I kind of just view it as, Dusty kind of set the table with, even if Watson does play 15, 20 snaps or whatever,
yeah.
Like we saw what that was like with Jameson last year at the tail end of the season, right? Like put him on the field. It could be one play. He could make one play and it's a big one, right? It's one where it's like, oh, that swung the momentum of the football game. So, even if he is on a pitch count, like I guess my concern with is the speed. And Dusty bringing up the point about Atlanta, Drake London's a big guy. He's not a slow guy by any means, but Kyle Pitts is a big guy, and it kind of boils down to like, I just don't really believe in Desmond Ridder. I don't know if the Falcons should either, but I feel like there's more promise with Jordan Love. And obviously you have LaFleur, who's just kind of like a, creative genius when it comes to passing concepts. And like Dusty said, they'll figure out ways to get guys open, and that could be a concern to me. I mean, fair. Mosley, Jeremy, I feel like that is maybe the biggest question mark to me.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have him. I don't think we're going to have him this week, though.
I know.
And even if the Lions do have him, which again I don't think it's going to happen, it sounds Dan Campbell made it pretty clear that they're going to ease him in, so he would only take some of Jerry Jacobs' snaps, and so. Yeah, I mean, if we got handsy Jerry Jacobs out there and the Packers are drawing a heck of a lot of deep pass interference flags, we're gonna get a frustrating one. And you will get at least one tweet Thursday night of me complaining that pass interference is not a spot foul, because any penalty that's 40 yards in this game does not belong in the.
I look forward to seeing that, Jeremy.
Yeah, sure. Before we go to our first break here, Dusty, I want to throw it to you in terms of what about this matchup maybe concerns you as a Packers fan.
Run game. Run game is the big thing for me, just because as we saw Saints were eating them alive this past week, and part of LaFleur's whole thing, he wants to stick with that. And I understand that so much of the passing game is tied to that. You got to set some of that stuff up. Like you said, the run game doesn't have to be effective, but you got to show those looks. Yeah. You got to show that you're at least willing to run and get them to bite on it. And even, I'm watching that game and going, there's 8 minutes left, man. Just chuck the ball. And they threw the ball a lot. I think he had 50 some odd dropbacks. Loved it this past week, when every other week has been like 30 or below. The first 2 weeks have been 30 or below. So they were chucking, but it was also still runs. And some of their run game, it's little sideways pitches to Dylan. Like, stop doing that stuff. But I understand the purpose and the structure of it. So my concern is, I think I'm with you guys. I think passing is the way to attack Detroit, especially the way both of these teams are built. However, I think LaFleur, especially early, is really going to try to lean on that run game and lean into it a little too heavy. I think that's, as much as I really love what he's doing, I think there are times he will just like, this is what we want to do. We are going to stick to this, even if it's not working. And sometimes it'll work and sometimes it won't. So I think it'll be very clear very early. You need to pass to win this game. Run game's not working. Even if Aaron Jones is out there, you need to be pass heavy. And I still think he's going to lean on the run a little too heavy and get just beat a little bit. So I think that's my main concern going in this game. I have 1,000 concerns. That's my main one.
Yeah, there are concerns there too, but like I feel like you should know that Jeremy also wants to take away run plays from Ben Johnson when it's 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 9.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to feel that way too. Like at first I was like, Jeremy, this is a Jeremy thing. But like now I'm seeing, I'm like, okay, hold on. This is all this thing.
This is a Jeremy thing. How dare you? I'm starting to think that maybe we should have just made the entire podcast of things that Dusty's worried about. But maybe we'll have like
how much time you guys got?
A supplemental podcast where we just do that. But let's take a break here. When we come back, we're going to flip the script, talk about the Lions offense against the Packers defense, and throw out some predictions for Thursday night. When we come back here on First Byte with Dusty Evely, we'll be right back.
What's going on, guys? Miko here from Pride of Detroit. Thanks for taking the time to check out this clip from our most recent POD live stream. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see where the conversation went from here, all you have to do is click the link in the description that'll take you over to our Twitch channel. And once you're on our Twitch channel, be sure to drop us a follow or subscribe if you're so inclined. That way you can be notified anytime we go live and be a part of our live audience, which means that you may be privy to content that doesn't always make it onto the audio version of the podcast or even onto YouTube. Also, if you're more inclined and you prefer an audio version of our live streams, you can click the links to both Spotify or Apple Music, which will take you to their platform, and you can download the entire audio version of the podcast and listen to it whenever you want to. Again, we appreciate you guys and thank you for the support. Be sure to leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to this channel if you're new, and we will be sure to keep bringing you amazing Lions content.